Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, 100. Welcome back to the Baseball Head, and hopefully you like this live stream. We're here live in the Hut's living room, relaxing in my reclining chair. 4 days away from opening day. We're going to go through the lineup a little bit, but I would mention we're going to get into a lot of stuff here. I've been thinking a lot about the last hour or so. The things I want to talk about here. This is a very different channel than you might be accustomed to. But and of course, before we get into this video, I need to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and if you're watching on replay, leave comments in the comments section. We're 4 days away from opening day. I might be one of the few channels that doesn't do predictions. I got burned 2 years ago or 3 years ago with the 2023 Mets, where the Mets did not post. Had a terrible June, and basically they lost Edwin Diaz in the early part of the season, and since then my attitude's basically let's see how this goes. And that's kind of my attitude now going into this season. This is a team that is a very different team than we've accustomed to. We got a lot of new players here, and it's going to take an adjustment for this group to find its way. And we do have a new coaching staff with the manager. So this is a Mets team that is extremely different from what we've seen in the past, and not going to be so heavily invested in trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. This is more of a contact lineup. They're going to put the bat on the ball a little bit more. They're going to be a little more athletic. There are roster spots that we're going to talk about here, but this is a very different team that we're used to. And that's something that it's going to take a little time for this season to develop. Obviously, last season was a season that didn't develop right away because in April and May, they were the best team in baseball. They had the best record. They looked really good, but there was something off about the team. We know that Soto didn't have a good start. There were issues there, and we learned a lot of issues, this off season when it comes to Soto and Lindor and the other players that are no longer here. So this team is going to take a little bit of time to figure out what they are. I've always said that after 40 games, you get a pretty good idea which team is. Memorial Day and, of course, the 4th of July. Those have always been the barometers. That has been the barometer for 140 years. So those are still things that we can look towards that are just, we know what the deal is. Those moments during the season and during the schedule that'll give us an indication what kind of team this is. Like I said, it's going to be more of a contact hitting team. I think they're going to be much better late in the game. And I can't stress enough how 2025 has shook me, because you can't be a team and have no comebacks in the ninth inning. The 2025 team did not have one comeback in the ninth inning. You know how impossible that is? That's statistically impossible. But they did it. So that tells you about how clutch they weren't as a group. Now they brought in Bo Bichette. It'll be interesting to see how his defense is. I think he'll be okay defensively, but he's a clutch hitter. He's a big time stone cold clutch hitter. I mean, he had 381 last year with men's scoring position, over 300 men's scoring position for 2 outs. He had a big World Series, had a big home run in Game 7 against Ohtani. He had a big World Series. They were 3 outs away, the Blue Jays, from winning it, and he was going to be the biggest reason that they would have won, because he had that big home run and late in middle to the late in the game. So he's going to be very clutch. Jorge Polanco has a reputation of being clutch. I know that he did not do himself well in a play on Saturday, but a couple of things. The pitcher did not get off the mound quick enough. He's left-handed. Didn't get off the mound quick enough. That base runner was going to beat him no matter where that throw was. But the defense at first is going to be a bit of work in progress when it comes to him a little bit. Those balls that go up, go into the hole to the first baseman's right side, it's not going to be easy. So that's why it was so important that they brought in a big defensive second baseman and Semien. Because I think they kind of knew that they were going to go somewhere where the guy was not going to be nearly as good defensively as they would have liked. But he's a placeholder. They'll DH him a little bit, and he'll be a placeholder until they find somebody else or they make a trade or Clifford comes up. But be that as it may, let's go to run down a little bit of this team, specifically really position by position. The guys we know who are going to be here. Somebody had written to me, Stoney. It's one of my buddies online, great subscriber. He wrote to me the other day. He was asking me about the roster. The Mets had 68 players on the roster last year. And because of the 68 players that they had on the roster last year, why does anybody cover the rosters going into the season? Because the roster just 2 days ago is different now than what it's going to be on opening day because of Mike Hoffman's injury. He tore his meniscus, so he tore his knee. So he's going to be out for a while. And you have all these players that were on this team last year. 68 players were on the Mets last year. 46 pitchers and 22 position players. So why are we all getting worked up about determining what the roster, who the last guy on the bench is, and the last guy in the bullpen is? It's a waste of time. Mets got about 17, 18, 19 guys that are going to be very important to this team, and then the rest of the guys are going to come in and out. In and out, in and out, in and out. That's how it is. Let's run down this team a little bit. Let's start behind the plate. Francisco Alvarez. This is a big year for him, in my opinion. He has to be consistent. His defense must be much better than it has been. He had a pass ball in the game during the week. This past week, his defense is concerning to me. Okay. The throwing is fine, but the defense, the blocking the plate, blocking balls in the dirt, it's a major problem. He's not Gary Sanchez problem, but it's not great. And the offense, I know the numbers look good, but I felt that the offense should have been much, much better, just based off of his reputation. I know that he got off to a horrific start last year and was sent down. I was not really impressed with him the last 2 months. I know the numbers look better than they were, but I wasn't all that happy with him. Luis Torrens. He is so there's a reason why he's bounced around. Okay. And we saw that last year when he had a chance to play a lot more than he had been. You saw the warts in his game. He's got a great arm. He's good behind the plate. But the offense comes and goes, and more it goes, to be honest with you. And that's a problem, obviously. But then we have first base, and we're going to have a cavalcade of people playing first. We're going to have Polanco there. Offensively, he's going to be fine behind the plate. I think he's going to be really good from the numbers they're going to get out of him. Mark Vientos, I'm not too concerned by the numbers that he's had in spring training. It's spring training. It doesn't mean anything. To be honest with you, that's not that big a deal to me. And that's the honest truth. But he has to start hitting. Okay. He did not have a good year last year. He's sort of up and down as a player offensively. He's either really, really good or he's really, really crap. You can't be up and down like that. Okay? So he has to sort of find himself. Brett Baty is a guy who, if the Mets were so confident in his abilities, why did they sign Bichette? Why did they trade for Semien? Why did they move Soto to left field? I think they look at him, I guess, as another Jeff McNeil. But he has to hit though, and he has to continue the good play. 'Cause he had a good second half last year, and he needs to be able to do that again this year. You know, defensively, he's actually not bad second. And he really had improved greatly at third base over the last year. So there has been improvements to his game, but he has to step up forward. He's gonna be 26, 27 years old. He's not a kid, and he has to come through. To be honest with you, he has to step it up in a big way. Second base, um, Mets have Marcus Semien. He's 35 years old. What are we going to expect to get out of him? Uh, well, the approach should be with him from what Mendoza and what the Mets should do. He shouldn't be playing every day, and that he should have days off after a night game. Night games or after day games is a good thing. And at his age, that would be good for him not to play every day and get the maximum amount of numbers out of him. He's from the chat. Got somebody talking to me. Let's see. Dave Coffer too. Yes, Mike Talkman is hurt. Mentioned him. He's going to get surgery. He hurt his knee. He's going to get surgery on his knee. But Semien needs to get some rest. I mean, I don't think the Mets should be playing him more than 120 games. Because that's what he played last year. And I think if you maximize that, I think you'd be fine. And then you can mix and match who you want to play at second a little bit. You could play Beatty there a lot. Francisco Lindor. I'm going to say this. People aren't going to like it. I think we've seen the best of his ability is to be an impact player. I think he had a career year 2 years ago. The numbers from last year look okay, look pretty good. But obviously, he was part of the team last year that didn't have any comebacks late in the game. Okay. So the reality is we have to do things with this attitude. And plus, he's coming off the injury to his hand. That the power might be compromised. His power might be compromised going into the season and for the first 2 months of the season. That's usually how long it takes for the heal. So to me, that is something to keep an eye on. And if he can continue to see if his bat still has that quickness, I think that's very important to sort of see if you're paying attention to that, how he's able to jump on a ball. If he fouls a lot of balls off, does he hit? If he's batting left-handed, does he pop the ball up to the left side? Those are indications of a slowing bat. Balls that he'll turn on in the past, is he able to continue to do that? Is he able to turn on a fastball? And of course, on the right-hand side, if he pops up the ball to right field, I saw that with plenty of players. Gary Carter was like that when he was batting right-handed. He popped the ball up to right field. You could tell the bat was slowing down a little bit, and it's just a slight thing to notice. Howard Johnson was notorious for that. When Hojo his bat got slower in '92 and '93, he popped a lot of balls up to the opposite field. If he was batting left-handed, it was to the left field. Right-handed, right field. So that's something to keep an eye on with Lindor. If in the past the balls that he was able to turn on, he's popping them up and found them back. Those are two indications of a slowing bat. But he's 32 years old. That's why I bring this up. Third base, Bo Bichette. He's going to be great offensively. Hold on, I need a drink. Look. Bo Bichette is going to be awesome to watch. He's going to be getting a lot of hits. He's going to be getting a lot of hits late in the game. He's going to hit big home runs. He's going to provide stuff the Mets haven't had here late in the game. Now, the defense is going to be interesting to figure out. But he's going to be really good offensively. I mean, really, I don't see any issues there. He's barely getting into his prime. I don't know what the situation will be after the season with the contract, with the opt-out, but that we'll figure that out when we get to the offseason. There's some big free agents coming down the line next year. Obviously, the big free agent Skubal. I'll be interested to see if the Mets, interesting, if they bring him in. If they have Peralta here and Peralta has a big year, maybe they sign him instead of bringing in Skubal, because Skubal will cost them a lot of money, a lot more money than Peralta will. Left field, Juan Soto's going to have one of the biggest years we've ever seen around these parts. I know that he doesn't have Pete Alonso batting behind him to give him protection, but he's going to hit 45 home runs. I mean, he's going to really challenge for the MVP. Staying healthy. I was shocked when I saw that he led the league in stolen bases last year. Shocked. I mean, it tells me that he's willing to he's willing to improve his game. Be interested to see how he is with the new. And his thing, I don't even care who the coaches are this year. I don't even know who the coach is. Who's the coach for the base runners? I don't even know. I've been so busy here, just in my regular life. I don't even know who the coaching staff is. I know who the pitching coach is. That's the most important guy to me. All these other guys, I couldn't know him. I wouldn't know him if I fell into him. But I think Soto's going to have a monster year. Like I said, something out of the likes of Mike Piazza, Mike Piazza type impact. Mike Piazza, Pete Alonso 2019. John Olerud 98. Something that Darryl Strawberry did back in the 80s. Something of a monumental kind of thing. He's going to set a real tone here for offensive players for this franchise this year. I think that's the kind of year he's going to have. Now, center field. What we're going to get out of Luis Robert Jr. He is a guy that I was not happy that they were going to bring him in here, but his numbers are better than what they had last year. They had no production in center field last year. They had nobody. Tyrone Taylor had a bad season. They were playing Jeff McNeil in center field, and McNeil couldn't play that. He couldn't play center field. It was terrible. He was hurting them defensively. And of course, that Jose Siri was a disaster. But I expect to have better offense at center field because it's just going to be better. And I think the potential, and the Mets have talked a lot about this with him, the potential to do more is, obviously the ceiling is much higher with him because he's done it in the past. And when he was on good teams, he played well. When he played for good managers, he played well. Under Tony La Russa, he had 30 home runs. Then when they had all these lousy managers, he did terrible. So to me, I expect him to be okay in center. He provides the defense. The other part of which is an issue is his health. How is he able to stay healthy? Because the Mets didn't run him out there right away. They were very careful with him. So you wonder what the mixing and matching is going to be when it comes to center field. If they're going to, and what they're going to do with Benj, And then we have Carson Benj, and he's, where Carson Benj is from. He's from Oklahoma State. And he's taken being part of this team very seriously. He deserves to be part of this team. There was some thought that maybe he might not make the team based on the fact the Mets have not announced it. But if he doesn't make and here's the thing, if he doesn't make the team at a spring training, people are going to be so mad and pissed off about it. Thinking the Mets are trying to hold his free agency back. It's just ridiculous. If he made the team, bring him in here. Okay. Now, Benj, the thing that I've noticed and the thing that I've been impressed about with his spring training is not so much the result, but I love the fact that he's a left-handed hitting outfielder, and he's been showing the capability of hitting the ball to left field with authority. Meaning that he looks like he can cover the plate. Meaning he can hit the ball to left field. He's not going to be. He's going to wait back on a pitch that might be off the plate. And obviously, when you see a young hitter doing that, that says really good things about the kind of player he is. Now, I would mention he was not a position player at Oklahoma. He was a two-way player. I mean, he was pitched and he was able to play on a regular basis. And his game has exploded, and they've said this, that when players do one over the other, the way they're able to perform goes up. So, for instance, Nolan McLean, he's another kid from Oklahoma who was a pitcher and a hitter. He was their baseman, first baseman. He took on the pitching, and his ability to pitch, and the result has been spectacular. Now, with Benj, he's still learning how to be an everyday player. And there's no questions in terms of what he can do now. But if he's able to do more, it might still be in there for him. I want to see a little bit more of him in the real game action when we get to Thursday and Saturday, and when the Mets go to St. Louis, and when the Mets go to San Francisco, we get a real good chance to see what kind of player he is. Hello, Isaac. Let's go Mets. This guy always very positive. He's always very positive and leaving comments. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you leaving very positive comments. Nothing negative about a Let's Go Mets chant. So thank you. But and also with Benj, like I said, I would really prefer they play him than send him back. There's no reason to send him back. To send him to AAA. If he can play at the major league level, if he can compete at the major league level, let him take his lumps. Okay, they're probably going to bat him eighth in this lineup, although they bat him a lot. Leading off a game. I think eventually, once he settles in and they figure out what kind of player he is, I think that eventually they'll probably lead him off because he's a guy that he seems to want to get on base a lot. He talks about not striking out a lot. So I thought that was kind of it was very interesting to see that when I watched the clip of him talking about not wanting to strike out. And then we have the bench. Now the bench could go any which way at this point. I'm going to read the bench that I have here from Grok. So we got Beatty, Vientos. They said that Vidal Brujan might make this team as a bench player. But he might not be part of this team if they decide to play Bichette as the backup shortstop. And then with the outfield, they got Soto, Robert Jr., Tyrone Taylor, Benj, and Jared Young. Jared Young probably has a better shot at making this team now, based off the fact that Tauchman is out. Now Jared Young's a pretty good player for what he is. He has some pop. The Mets spent a lot of money to bring him in here. I want to see more of him, but I like the little bits and pieces I saw of him, specifically coming off a bench with having some pop, late in the game. But again, like I said, it's with this position player group. I know they pitched poorly last year, but I put a lot of blame on the position players of last year and why that team did not win. The fact that they had so many opportunities to win games late in the ninth inning and they weren't able to do that, it bothers me a lot. It still bothers me. Now the pitching staff, the starters, they're gonna pitch Peralta on Thursday, so it'll be our first real chance to see him pitch in a big game. He's gonna go up against Paul Skeens on Thursday. And like I said earlier, I expect the Pirates to make the postseason. That'll be my only prediction that I'll make going into the season. I expect the Pirates to be there. The Pirates will be the last wild card spot, just based on their pitching and the fact that they brought in some offensive thump to that lineup. That they worked hard to do that. So they feel good about that team and the pitching. I would mention this if you didn't see that Connor Griffin got sent back to the minors. That's a situation where the Pirates don't want to like give him more time in the major leagues. They're playing around with that because I don't know what kind of spring he had, but he got off to a rip roaring start in the beginning. Then on Friday on Saturday they're gonna pitch David Peterson. Now Peralta I would mention more than mention. He's an ace, okay, and I expect him to have a big year. He's gonna be a free agent. I think there's a very good chance he'll stay here. And he seems to be a real good presence in the clubhouse, and the Mets need that. I mean, we know that. And have a presence at the top of the rotation, which I've talked a lot about, going into the off season. When you have a guy like that in your rotation, it makes it difficult to have. It makes it easier to break up these long losing streaks. Last year, the Mets had 2 7-game losing streaks and 1 8-game losing streak. If they had won one of those games, so you're talking about 0 for 23. So 0 and 23. So 23 games went down the drain. Probably not because of the pitching. Because a lot of times you had these long losing streaks, it's because of lack of pitching. So 0 and 23 in the games where they lost 7 games, and then 8 games. That's 0 and 23. If they had one win off of those games, they would have gone to postseason. If they won opening day, with Juan Soto striking out in the 9th inning against Josh Hader, they would have went to postseason. And that was not a playoff team with Houston. So having an ace will cut down on these losing streaks. So that's why I thought it was very important that the Mets brought somebody in. And also, it takes a lot of pressure off of Nolan McLean. I think Nolan McLean has a chance to be a very good starter, very good pitcher. But keep in mind that he does not have a lot of experience as a starter. If I remember right, he was a reliever in college. So, but he played every day. And he played in big games with Oklahoma. Oklahoma State played in all the big games. They played in the World Series in college. I thought that bringing in Peralta or any ace was going to be very beneficial to him because it took a lot of pressure off of him. I think that's going to be the big benefit for him. But keep in mind, Nolan McLean only has 9 starts in the major leagues. I thought the expectations that they've been saying about him has been so unfair that I thought that was, he's going to be great. He's going to be distant. He's had 9 games in the majors. He's looked really good. He's looked the part. But he needs more seasoning and that he needs more experience at the big league level. He needs more starts up here. Now, him pitching in the World Baseball Classic, he pitched okay. He didn't pitch good in his first start because that was the second start of the spring. He was a little bit better in the second start, in the final. But he needs more games. He needs more experience. He's a full season in the majors. So to me, I don't want to see him see too much pressure put on him due to the fact that he's not pitched a lot. And like I said, he doesn't have a lot of experience as a regular starter. Like I said, he pitched out of the bullpen in college, if I remember right. And he was an everyday player in Oklahoma. 2 years ago, before he became like a regular starter, he actually was a position player. He couldn't hit, but he had the most power in the Mets farm system. And he still does. He's got a 70 grade power bat, but he can't hit. The grade for his hitting is 40 or something like that. Really, really low. 50 is average. His was 40. According to some criteria. So I thought that was important that the Mets, bring in an ace, take a lot of pressure off him. Now he'll pitch on Sunday. On Saturday, they're going to pitch David Peterson. I expect a very good year from Peterson start to finish if he's able to stay healthy. Last year he was healthy, but you could tell that the last month and a half, 2 months, he got really tired. He hadn't pitched a full season, who knows how long. He pitched half a season the year before. He pitched really well. The first, from April to the middle of August, he pitched really, really well. Pitched great at times. I expect him to have a big year this year, to be much more consistent from start to finish. He has to be healthy, obviously, and he's on a walk year. And even if he has a big year, I don't expect him back. I don't see David Stearns resigning him if it's a big year. He'll let him walk. If he has a choice between Peralta or Peterson, he will sign Peralta to a long-term deal. Just due to the fact that he developed him in the minor leagues with the Brewers. He knows him as a personality. Peterson, I would mention, he's been part of this team for many years. They haven't won anything, although he's had big moments, especially at the bullpen in the playoffs 2 years ago. I expect him not to be here next year. But I think he'll have a big year, and he'll make a lot of money. Then we have on the Mets roster, we have Clay Holmes, who's going to be, I guess he's going to start on Monday in St. Louis. Let's go in St. Louis. And Cole's going to be there in St. Louis. Holy shit! the scheduling's so weird. I haven't really studied the schedule like I normally do, but it's a very strange beginning of the season for the Mets. They play 3 games at home against Pittsburgh at division. Then they go to St. Louis in March at a division, and then they go all the way to San Francisco to play the Giants. And I think they come back home and they play the Diamondbacks of all teams in April. But Clay Holmes had a big year last year. He pitched so well last year. He looked really good last year. He was excellent. And he had that big game, the last game. It was almost like history repeating itself. He had a big game that Saturday night. So did John Maine in 2007, and so did Johan Santana in 2008. Irony. But he pitched really well for the Mets. Won 12 games, had a very strong year. I expect him to pitch well again. He's solid, and he's going to be a free agent. He'll opt out. I wouldn't mind if the Mets bring him back for next year, but we'll see how he is. See if he can stay healthy. Then they're going to pitch Kodai Senga, I guess, on Tuesday next week against the Cardinals. If he's healthy, he's an ace. If he has any issue with his arm or his back or his leg, everybody's got to feel good for him to pitch well. But when he pitches well, he's a star. He's a star. And the Mets season went kaput after he got hurt in June last year. So I'm not saying he's a key guy, but he's an important guy. Now, Sean Manaea has not had a good spring. Sean Manaea is going to be pitching out of the bullpen. He's going to be a piggyback guy, a guy that'll come in, I guess, in the middle of the game of guys throwing a lot of pitches. People are like, I'm so concerned. That's what everybody's saying. I'm so concerned. But for me, I was not a big fan of them bringing him in here because I knew the guy's history as a pitcher. He's sort of been up and down his career as a pitcher. And this is a guy that was the number 1 pick by the Royals back in 2013. So I have a pretty good idea what kind of player he is. He's had a bit of an injury history. He's had a history of being ineffective. He's had a history of basically doing what he did last year, but then also pitching great like he did, for 6 weeks in 2024 and looking like an ace. That's not so much, but he pitches crappy a lot of times. And that's going to be something to bear in mind. And he's going to pitch a lot of innings I would think that he'll piggyback in games, probably specifically when Senga pitches. I would think, but we'll see. Now the bullpen. The bullpen is a concern for me in that I'm not enamored with the closer. Devin Williams has not been the same since he went up against Pete Alonso 2 years ago. He's not been the same. He's not been the same pitcher. And he does have a history of injuries. One of my family members, a Yankee fan, he said by June, Luke Weaver's going to be the closer. Luke Weaver's going to be good. Luke Weaver, I think we've sort of forgotten about him. I think we haven't really talked much about him in spring training. But I think he's going to have a good year. I think Luke Weaver's going to be really good. And obviously, the Mets got Brooks Raley here. I am not, and he's going to be good. He was good last year. I am not enamored with Brazelban. I'm surprised he's still on this club. I'm very surprised that he's still here. Because he was the other guy that kept blowing games to this team in June and July, which made it very difficult for the Mets to get the postseason. The other guy that blew a lot of games, and he did a lot of games like that in April and May, was Ryan Stanek, who was a disaster. A complete total clusterfuck late in the game. And that, to me, another reason why this team did not win and go to postseason. Now, Brazelban, I know he pitched well in the World Baseball Classic, but let's be real. Those games aren't for money. Those games don't matter for us Met fans, okay? And it doesn't surprise me that he pitched like that. So when the season starts, he's not going to pitch like that. He's going to pitch like crap. I would say the Mets told Craig Kimbrell and let it be known today that he wasn't making the team. But he's not going to leave the organization. I guess he's going to pitch and extend his spring training down in Port St. Lucie. So he might be here. They said the reason that he's not leaving is because he wants to be part of a winning team. Got to be a little careful on him. Because he's not the Craig Kimbrell from like 10 years ago, or when he was with the Braves and he had like a 1.5 ERA or 1.2 ERA down in Atlanta. He's a scary guy. He's a scary guy late. I mean, he is one of the reasons why the Phillies did not win in 2022. Did not win the World Series in 2022, among some other reasons too. But he was a big reason why they didn't win 2022. Was the fact that how poorly he pitched. That postseason. He gives up a lot of home runs. Didn't pitch that great last year. He's a Hall of Fame reliever, but he's not that anymore. So that's the one thing that's troubling to me. But he's not going to be here to start the season. But we'll see. Then we have, of course, Tobias Myers, who could be the X factor on this club. He pitched really well 2 years ago for the Brewers. And he looked really good in postseason against the Mets in Game 3 in the wild card series. And he's going to be. It could be a really, really effective pitcher in the middle of games, late in the games. And I can't wait to watch him pitch. I really can't. I look forward to watching him pitch. I'm very excited about watching him pitch on a regular basis for the Mets. And then we have like a whole bunch of guys. Like Brian Hudson and a few other guys. But I would say this, and I said this earlier. Talking about the rosters, it's not like 25, 30 years ago when you knew that you had about 30, 35 guys that are going to be on your team. Last year, again, the Mets had 68 players on their team. 46 pitchers and 22 position players. And the reason I bring that stuff up again is that, look, I'm not going to get worked about, the backup infielder, on this club. I'm not going to get worked up about the last guy in the bullpen. Those guys are not going to help you that much. They're just there to fill a void, fill a body. If they play well, great. If they don't, they'll ship them out of here. and they'll bring in somebody else. Garbage in, garbage out. It's all about getting the outs from an 162 game season. I would hope that the Mets don't use 46 pitchers this year, because that tells you how much of a difficult time they had trying to get outs. The biggest pitching move the Mets made this offseason was getting rid of Jeremy Hefner. Jeremy Hefner was a disaster pitching coach. Everybody's been covering for him, and you saw how weird he is when they talked to him in spring training. That's the media, and he basically would not say the Mets name. Very strange, and it told me a lot about how weird of a guy he is. And it's a guy that had the Mets treated him really well over the years in his career. Mets drafted him, they developed him, they got him to the major leagues. They gave him 2 years to come back from this injury that he had. He had to get 2 Tommy John surgeries. Mets were very good to him, and then they brought him back as a as a hold on, drink. And Jeremy Hefner acting the way he did is just beyond the pale and strange. Now we have Justin Willard, who had been the coordinator, I guess, in the minor leagues for the Red Sox the last few years. I don't know much about him. I know that the Red Sox minor league pitchers pitched much better last year. That the walk totals were way down. And that is a big deal for me, because I've talked a lot about it over the last 2-3 years, if not longer, about how the Mets have been walking the ballpark like crazy. And we hadn't seen any kind of improvement. And all we've heard from the media, oh, this guy's a great pitching coach. He's in such demand, this and that. He could be like a general manager. And we'll let him be a general manager. I heard that story a couple years ago. Let him go. Good luck to him. Hello, Dr. Manhattan. How you doing? How you doing, Dr. Manhattan? Hello, Hut. I'll be there opening day. And the rest of the 80 home games. Let's go Mets. I would mention my friend. I was hoping to go on Thursday, but I had to get some repairs done to the Hutmobile. And I'm not going to be able to go. I was really hoping to go opening day. At some point, I will make my way to Citi Field. I haven't been to Citi Field quite a while. I was thinking about this. The last time I was at the ballpark, Citi Field, was in 2021. A long time. And that was for the 9/11 game that the Mets played against the Yankees. And the reason I didn't go to any games after that is because I was sort of undecided. I don't know what to go. And, where I used to live, it wasn't too far away from, where the ballpark was. Now where I go, I got to take the train in. I got to take the Long Island Railroad in. But I really wanted to go, but because of repairs, I can't go now. But I would say this, that I had some issues with my car, and people don't care about this, but I do. I brought it to Jiffy Lube on a Sunday just to get the oil changed, and they messed up my because the mechanic was careless, messed up the hose that went into the engine that went from the antifreeze to the engine and damaged it. I couldn't drive it. And I'm going to try to get them to reimburse me. This is Jiffy Lube. Try to work on that this week. So that money has to go back into my money, or I'm going to lose that money. And then I had to take a lift home, and I don't live too far away. I live pretty far away. But anyway, so I was really hoping to go to the ballpark on Thursday. That's not going to happen. But I'm going to try to get to the ballpark sometime this year. So I try to let it be known beforehand Was really hoping to meet some people, some of my peeps out there that follow me on all different social media accounts. Gonna do that at some point. Too much of a mystery man at this point. But going back to our Mets again, I'm just gonna sort of be very easygoing about the club because really I want to see if this team can overcome some of the negativity around it. Um, and there are things that were not resolved, okay, things that were not talked about, that are sort of out there. And they've resolved themselves this off season due to the fact that they traded Nimmo, they moved on from Pete Alonso. Edwin Diaz wanted more money, bolted out of here. Um, and you still have guys here, and one in particular that's still here had a lot of issues with his teammates. And that's Francisco Lindor last year. Lindor had a lot of issues here. He admitted to this in spring training when the media talked to him. He said one of the things, and that perked my ears up. It wasn't so much that he said he wanted to be a better player, but that he wanted to be a better teammate. They basically told us that he was not great with Soto because the rumor was that he did not help Juan Soto much and his adjustment being with the Mets. The most important person that was in the Mets organization that helped Soto out a lot to become a Met was Carlos Beltran. And that was a big deal to me. When I saw that and then heard him say that he thought that he should be a better teammate, I think the Mets kind of went to him after Nimmo had gotten traded, um, and Alonso wasn't here anymore. I think they went to Lindor and said, "Listen, you have to do a better job in the clubhouse," and I think that's a big reason why. Um, um, Steve Cohen came out and said, "We're not going to have any more captains," because I think that was a lot of pressure on some of these players. If you're a captain, if you're a leader, you're a leader. It doesn't matter. Okay. There are some guys you look at them, they're a leader on a club, no matter what. Nobody disputed that David Wright was the leader of the Mets. No one ever disputed that. But I always thought that there was some dispute between Nimmo and Lindor for quite a while, going back to 2022. The media was pushing hard for Lindor to be the leader of this team, and he just didn't take to it. He wasn't great with McNeil. He treated McNeil like shit. And of course, the back and forth that he had with Nimmo. So I would hope that I think that the fact that he mentioned it is telling me that the Mets front office talked to him. Mendoza probably talked to him. Stearns probably talked to him, and probably Steve probably talked to him too. So you got to do a better job of being more open to new players coming in here. You know, and I think that was a major issue. I also say this that guys like Mike Francesa and Craig Carton had both mentioned on their programs that there was a lot of issues in that clubhouse, a lot of problems politically. One thing about left wing politics is that it can be distracting to an organization. Okay? Because that is the priority. And even though the Mets are left leaning, I think the front office said, listen, this is a problem. You can't be fighting with your teammates over this stuff. And I think that was a major problem this year, or last year, excuse me, was this sort of back and forth um, going on between Lindor and Nimmo. Now, I don't think Nimmo was necessarily moved because of the politics, but you have to sort of question it. A thing that the media did not do this offseason, once Nimmo got dealt, and the story came out that Nimmo and Lindor didn't get along because of politics, the media dropped it. They didn't even ask questions on the whole situation with those two. and they don't ask. And there's nothing wrong with asking. You ask David Stern, did you trade Brandon Nimmo because he's a conservative? It wasn't even mentioned. It was totally forgotten. The closest we got was that Lindor put out there that he said that he should have been a better teammate, and that was it. And the media didn't ask him about Nimmo. Did you have problems with Nimmo? And that sort of was dropped. Now with Soto and Lindor, Soto said, "Oh, no problems," but Soto's a professional. So even if there were like issues, Soto was able to get through them on his own and with some help from Beltran. So it's this season is going to be a learning experience for all of us because we're going to get a chance to see a different team, a new team, some of the same cast of characters with Lindor and Soto and Alvarez and Beatty and Vientos and some of the pitchers. But it's a very different team. They're more athletic team. You would hope that they'd be better late in the game, like I said earlier. Um, but we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, that's something we'll have to monitor every day. Um, so that's something we'll have to see. Now, please, of course, like this video and subscribe. If you're watching on replay, leave comments in the comment section. We're going to be very busy here this week because I decided to take a vacation from work. So I'm with you all week. Maybe I'll do a live stream tomorrow. I don't know. Certainly have videos. I've not recorded anything for tomorrow for any of the channels. I haven't done anything. Just wanted to do a live stream tonight and just sort of shoot the breeze with you and talk about the team and what we can expect. What do I expect? I would hope a better team. I hope more wins. I hope better results. That's what I hope to say. They won 83 games last year. The year before they won 89. In 2022 they won 101 games. So that group you seeing the results were decreasing. Okay, in terms of their records. Now obviously they lost a lot of games in 2023, but a lot of that was due to the fact they lost Edwin Diaz for the season. I'm glad the Mets did not lose any pitchers or any players during the World Baseball Classic. Because if that had happened, we wouldn't have heard the end of it. But so that's the one thing we could say about that team was that group of players, you were starting to see less and less results. The results weren't nearly as strong. You go from 101 wins to 89 to 83. That tells you that the group is declining as a group, especially when you have everyday players that are here every day and play every day, and you're seeing the results as a team declining. I'm all about numbers. The one thing you could track in baseball is not so much the home run totals or the stolen base totals or the batting average or the men's scoring position. That fluctuates from year to year. But the win totals is important because you can get a pretty good judge on the kind of team you're going to have. I go to a couple like historical references in my mind when I think about the way the Mets play, just figuring out what kind of team you're going to have. The 1983 Mets were a bad team, but they played a little bit better in the second half of that season because they keep the whole second half from May on, from June on. They had Darryl Strawberry from May on that year, so the offense started picking it up, and they started winning a few more games. Now they were way below 500, but you started to see an improvement, and then you kind of forget they brought in some of these younger players, which they did, and with Keith, being here a full season, you see better improved numbers. And you saw that a little bit. And then in 84, they took off. 2013 Mets, terrible team. They were a terrible team. The first 2 months of that season, If you paid attention, that was some of the worst Mets baseball I've ever seen. You know, even worse than even worse than 92, even worse than 93 specifically, because they got us to such a terrible start. I think they were on pace to lose 100 games or 95 games that year. But then they brought up Zach Wheeler. They started getting a little bit younger. Uh, and then in that second half, the Mets played 500. They looked like a better team. Um, and that was you saw a difference if you noticed it. And then they brought in Granderson. Now, obviously, lost Matt Harvey at the end of that season, but they played much better that year. They off that offseason, they brought in Curtis Granderson and they brought in Bartolo Colon the following year. And once they did that, that made a difference in terms of just they were bringing veteran players that knew how to win. And that year they won 79 games. But that was a team that was going upward. And then in 2000, and of course 2014 they brought in Jacob DeGrom, won the Rookie of the Year. But in 2015 they had Matt Harvey back. They thought they would be a better team. They brought in Kadai, who was a total bust. But they were a much, much better team. Obviously, then Syndergaard was ready. They brought him up. Jeurys Familia had a big year. And that was a situation where you saw a trajectory going upward. But then the reason that team didn't sustain it is because there's so many injuries to that pitching staff. Matt Harvey couldn't stay healthy. He had obviously turned out to be he had a drug problem. Noah Syndergaard was great in 2016. Got hurt in 2017. Was pitching hurt, and then he really hurt himself. Cespedes got hurt. DeGrom got hurt. He was up and down. They didn't have Zach Wheeler. It took him a while to get back on the ball and back on the beam. Steven Matz was all over the place. An irresistible chicken sandwich. What's up there, buddy? Miss Wheeler, shame he's with the old people home Phillies, but I don't understand. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, he's such a good pitcher. I was so mad when they let him walk after 2019. So mad they let him walk. Stupid move, not resigning him. That was a dumb move because he was coming back from injury. He was ready to take off, and he did take off. And he goes to the scum-sucking Phillies. But like I said, the last year's team, I was complaining for many years they needed to add another player to this group. They did that with Soto, but you saw less results. So to me, I was seeing a team that was not as good as it was in 2022. 2022, the Mets had an opportunity to go to the World Series. I mean, they really did. Diaz was pitching great. Max Scherzer was a big factor until he wasn't. And now you've seen this decline over the last 2024 and 25. So I thought that they went as far as they could with that group of Met players. And now we're with this new group. And I think that now we have to sort of be very honest and say, and I'm saying this now, I don't know what to expect from this Mets team. I don't know what to expect here. And I'm not going to pretend to know everything. I mean, I pretty much know everything. But the one thing I can't predict is the future. And when it comes to the Mets, you never know what the hell they're going to do. And they usually disappoint us. So you sort of have to keep that in mind when we go into this season. And that's basically my take for the season. I'm on X, if you don't know, at the Baseball Hut. So please, of course, I'm gonna put the link in the description of the video in the chat. But I am on X at the Baseball Hut, as the Baseball Hut. I'm also on Facebook too. I had an old Facebook account. It got hacked. Basically destroyed all my different, uh, uh, content accounts. I'm trying to rebuild the account on Facebook. It's slow but steady, and that's really going to start taking off once the season starts. But um, I've been posting a lot of stuff on X, basically taking what I did on Facebook, putting it onto X. Hopefully, make some money, and that's a way to sort of help the channel, and also pay some bills and pay the mortgage and pay for hopefully a new car I'm going to get down the line. But um, I came across this during the X on my X feed. One of my competitors. Uh, it is concerning that so many of these content creators are bringing in people from the mainstream media. That means they're being gobbled up by corporations, being gobbled up by people that don't really give a shit about the content creator. Okay. I saw this earlier before I came on. You had the content creator doing his live stream, and you're bringing in the expert, you're bringing in the insider. He brought in Anthony DiComo. Not Anthony DiComo. What the hell is his name? Oh, it's not Anthony DiComo. What the hell is that guy's name? Let me see. Let me double check. Uh, let me double check. Was it Anthony DiComo? Was somebody else? Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But um, he had somebody on. Oh, what the hell is his name? He works for SNY. It's not Anthony DiComo. Now, of course, please like this video, and of course, become a member of the Hut. Let me see. Anthony McCarron. Anthony McCarron went on a live stream. You had the content creator with his setup, his professional microphone. He's all ready to go. This is a guy that you see him online all the time. He's always going to the games. He's been on TV. He's everywhere. But he's doing the live stream, and us independent creators and all these people that aren't in the mainstream, you get a guy like Anthony McCarron to come on your show, and you got a professional microphone, you got a decent enough background to that you want to discuss, and you get the insider to give some credibility to your show, and the guy is doing his show from his kitchen with no microphone, no headphones on, no nothing. And I thought that was so disrespectful to the content creator. This guy's trying to make it in this world, trying to impress these people, and you have such disrespect by somebody that shouldn't be doing that. This is a guy that's on TV. He can afford to get this equipment. Instead, he's doing it from his kitchen, which you can do it from his kitchen, but I mean, you don't want to sound like you're in a cardboard box. And meanwhile, people are always getting on my case saying that I'm doing my videos from my basement when I don't have a basement. I don't even have an attic. I never had a basement in my life. You know, basically trying to belittle me. But then you get these insiders that are doing it from their kitchen. You could barely hear them when they're talking. And these are people that are on TV. You think they would be able to get microphones and have good setups? No, it's just. I was like, how do you do that? And I find that's disrespectful. And it tells me ultimately at the end of the day, it tells me that these insiders, they don't give a shit. I had the very first live stream I ever did. I was told, I was like, look, come on and get headphones so you can hear what's going on in the live stream when I ask you questions, and of course you want to get a microphone. I wasn't able to get the microphone the first time, but I got headphones so I could hear, And that was a big deal, getting headphones and being able to listen to the live stream. Who's this? Peter says this. Does your wife follow you on your account? I love you. What do you care about my wife? That's very personal. We don't talk about I don't talk about my personal life here at all. And since I've never seen your account, very suspicious. Should I crank up the Phantom Zone? Peter, don't remember ever seeing you. You ask me something like that, it's very suspicious. Very suspicious. I think I know what to do. Now, of course, please like this video in the meanwhile and subscribe to the Baseball Hut. That's suspicious. That's out of nowhere. This is after 11 o'clock at night. When somebody comes into a live stream and talks about something in your personal life that has nothing to do with the videos and they give you a compliment, get ready for the shoe to drop later on. I'm used to this. Very much used to that. It's not my first rodeo. You know. What does my wife have to do with you liking my videos and asking if they follow me on any of my accounts? Suspicious. Very suspicious. But I thought that that's very disrespectful, and I've seen that a few times with some of these wonderful MLB insiders that are going on to these accounts, going on to these content creators, and they basically are showing you that they don't give a shit. Okay? I find that to be very disrespectful that some of the uh, content creators get kind of treated like that. I mean, if you're a person that is trying to sort of be nice and talk about the Mets and talk about this and talk about that, but then you show up and you don't have a microphone, you sound like shit, to the audience, and um, and you're in your kitchen. Now you're gonna say you're doing it here in your living room. I'm just shooting the breeze with you folks, and this is what I do, and I am very much trying to hopefully do things outside. That's going to be a big deal here. Um, I have work to do in this yard that I have. Um, I basically have a yard where this fucking chipmunk digs it up, and I'm gonna like do some landscaping on my own. Never done landscaping before. Never owned my house before. The house before, but I'm gonna do the best I can to put some kind of like flatten out all this mud that I have in front of the house, and I'm gonna do videos in front of the house, outside, to give you something a little bit different and give you better sound. The sound quality outside is great. It's just I have very high ceilings here and very wide rooms in here, and the sound is terrible. What's going on? Mets 973 baseball. That's what's going on. We're going to be playing the game in a few days. Finally, first game is Wednesday. I guess the Yankees versus the Giants. So we'll see. And that's what's going on. Does Benj make the opening day roster? If so, does that mean Vienna's a bench player? I still believe Vienna's can provide offensively. I figures things out. We're going to find out. I'm surprised they haven't announced that Benj has made the team. There was a rumor that they were going to send him down. I wouldn't send him down. He's done everything he could do to make this team. There's no reason to send him down. My concern about Vientos is that he didn't play well last year. I don't care what he did in spring training. It doesn't matter. What these players do in spring training. That's not a concern. He had such a lousy season last year. And I think a lot of it is due to the fact that he had a swelled head. It bothered me a lot that after the season in 2024 that he was going to the Garden, watching the Knicks blowing kisses to the crowd when they were cheering his name. And he was doing that a lot. He was going a lot to these games. So I was like, what's this kid doing? He should be working a hell of a lot harder to go and get it the second time around. And it seemed like when the season started last year that his approach wasn't the same. Like he forgot what Beltran had taught him and told him, go up the middle, try to drive the ball to right field and center field. That way you can cover the entire plate. And that's the purpose behind hitting the ball up the middle, hitting the ball to right field. I learned that when I was 14 years old. This is what I don't get about Major League players. If you have the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark, out of any part of the ballpark, why are you trying to pull everything? And I learned 13, 14, 15 years old that if I can cover the outside part of the plate as a right-handed hitter, I can hit the ball anywhere in the ballpark. So if I have power, that ball is going to travel anywhere. And if you get bigger and stronger, you're going to start pulling that ball. And that's what happened to me when I was growing up. Is like I was a terrible baseball player when I was growing up. And I worked really hard to play with my friends and stuff. And it got to a point to where I was like 16 years old at one point, and I was playing with a family member with 25-year-old guys in a stick league. And when you're much younger and you're playing with these other guys and you're improving when you play with your friends, you're going to learn a lot of things. And one of the things I learned from playing is when I was younger, I couldn't pull the ball. But one thing I don't understand about some players is if I know this at 13, 14 years old, that if I can cover the outside part of the plate by driving the ball, then I have a good chance of being able to pull the ball as well. So if Beltran is telling Vientos in 2024, you need to hit the ball more up the middle. You need to hit the ball more to right field so you can cover the plate. Then you have a chance to be able to hit really well. And he did that. And he and he was doing that. And which I don't understand why that happens. Why some players are like this. Mets 973 says the league figured him out last season. Ventus needs to make adjustments. I know he made a bad decision to go to the WBC instead of staying in camp and working on his skills. He's not guaranteed. You know what? You're absolutely right. I didn't even think of that. He should not have gone there. There was no reason for him to go play that. But that's, again, goes back to what I said. Hold on, I need to drink. Look. That goes back. That goes back to what I said originally. Here is that he thinks he's a hard worker. It's not like he's not a hard worker. It never heard anything that he's lazy. But it's better to work smarter than to work harder. Okay. And he has potential to hit 30 home runs. He hit 27 home runs and less than 500 bats 2 years ago. So he has it in him to do it. But what makes players do it and stay here, or do 1 year and stay here, two totally different things. Okay? Now, he's not good defensively. He has great arm at third base. But he is not a good defensive player at all. He doesn't have great hands. He doesn't have great feet. Okay? He's slow-footed and his hands are terrible. So he has to hit 25 to 35 home runs to be able to be in this lineup. Okay? If he's not doing that and he's struggling like he did last year, he can't help them. Okay? That's the one thing I can say about him. And I think he gets very full of himself by, like I said, going to Madison Square Garden 2 years ago after the 24 season and now going to the WBC. He never should have went. It didn't even occur to me to think of that. but he shouldn't have went. Especially if he's trying to compete for a job. His job is not secure. Okay, when it comes to the major leagues, you know, he's not secure at all as a major league player in terms of being an everyday player. You know, Beatty's more secure as a contributor on a regular basis than Vientos is. Mets 973 asks, how many wins did the Mets get this season? Do they win their division? No, I don't think they win the division. Hold on a second. Thought I was going to sneeze for a second. You know when you have to sneeze? Well, I thought I was going to sneeze. I didn't sneeze. How many wins are they going to win? I'm not going to give you a prediction because I don't know. And after I got burned 3 years ago trying to figure this team out, and I can't figure them out. That is a different team. They're predicted to have a very strong chance to get to the World Series. Are they going to win the division? I don't think so. I think the Phillies will probably win the division again. I'll give you a couple of predictions though. I don't think the Braves will have nearly as good of a year. I think a lot of it will be stemmed from the fact that Snicker's not in that dugout anymore. No, I don't think the Braves are going to win the division. Walt Weiss is not a good manager. He was a lousy manager in Colorado. Okay, he's not a good manager. Okay, and they have a Hefner as the pitching coach. Hefner's a terrible pitching coach. They're gonna walk the ballpark. I can see them finishing third place again. Second place, third place. The Marlins are going to be a pain in the ass in the division. They're going to be difficult to deal with. They won 79 games last year. They're going to be difficult to deal with. But I don't think the Braves will win this division. If they do, I'd be shocked. Just due to the fact that they got this pitching coach who sucks. He sucks. But let's be honest. He's terrible. Okay. He's 6 seasons here. And I never felt comfortable with him as pitching coach. That's 973 says Phillies third place. Team is getting older, and they're running the same team back. I hope you're right regarding the Braves. I think it's concerning that Bryce Harper, his bat looks a little slow, but he did get a huge hit in the WBC. Okay, that was a big home run he hit. He still has that ability, but it's not going to be nearly as much. Cassian Niles was a major problem in that clubhouse. I mean, as it turned out. I mean, he was causing all kinds of trouble for them. And I think clearing him out of there will help that group out. A lot will depend on Wheeler's health, But I think they'll be pretty solid. They have a very good closer. They are older, but when you get an older team, they either fire or they don't. I think they'll finish at first. I think. I did mention that the Pirates are going to be difficult to deal with. That they'll probably try to get the last wild card. I think the Mets will get one of the wild cards. Mets 973. I threw a parade when they signed Realmuto for 3 years. I mean, you don't sign an older catcher for 3 years, but he had nowhere else to go. He had nowhere else to go. Isn't it funny the Mets did not sign him? They signed James McCann, and McCann was a disaster. He was a complete total disaster, James McCann. They could have signed Realmuto. They didn't even try to sign him. It's different. That's a long time ago now. It's 5 years ago. Wow. So much has changed over the last 5 years since we started this channel in 2020 and 2021. Yeah. So to get back to Anthony McCarron, going into a live stream and you're sitting in your kitchen. Uh, what is he doing? Like a Zoom interview? Get a microphone, wear some headsets. There's no reason to be doing it in your kitchen, right? It doesn't look good. All right. Um, that to me is when I see all these content creators having all these different people on there. Be very careful. Be very careful. We saw what happened a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, when they went after the fans, the media, and went after, um, you know, and were very political. Players taking knees and stuff like that. Can't forget that. So they don't really have a lot of respect for the fans, and they have very little respect for these content creators. Um, that's the one thing I can say. They really have very little respect for people that talk about the club but I understand the deal because I pay attention to the media, I pay attention to what they do, and you can't sort of ignore the kind of the stuff that they put us through a few years ago, with the nonsense. Um, and it is concerning that so many of these channels want to be uh, insiders themselves. Oh, this is what I wanted to mention about the media, and I thought this was kind of funny. Let me get to the chat real quick. Mess973, who has a bigger chance to break out this season, Robert Jr. or Sanger? I would say Robert, because I think that, and I said this earlier, when he's been on a good team, he's put up pretty good numbers. When the White Sox won 93 games in 2022, I think, or 23, or something like that, he hit 38 home runs. But the thing about him is, if he hits 30 home runs, he's not going to drive in 100 runs. Okay, I mean he doesn't hit well at men's scoring position. This is what I wanted to mention. Uh, when Omar Minaya was the general manager of the Mets and things weren't going so well after 2007, 2008, he called out Adam Rubin, who was writing for the New York Daily News at the time. And he said that the reason that Adam was being so critical of the ball club and of him in particular is because the Mets did not hire him as um, front office job. This off season, folks, Adam Rubin was hired by the Pittsburgh Pirates for their front office. I forget what the job that they gave him, but they hired him for the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. Okay. Also, this off season, little Andy Martino, one of our favorite topics. I mean, one of our favorite subjects here at the Hut. Little Andy was hired by the Mets to be the Mets reporter, whatever that means. He's going to be the Mets reporter, I guess, online. You haven't seen a peep out of him. he, and again, I said this that a lot of the media, especially the sports media, they want to be in the front offices. They don't want to cover the team. They want to be part of the team. And those are two examples of something like that. Adam Rubin. So Omar turned out to be right that he's being criticized because he wanted to be hired by the Mets and he wouldn't hire him. Omar wouldn't hire him. Isn't that interesting? And years later, over 10 years later, 15 years later, he's going into the Pirates front office. It's the sports media is a very strange thing, and then you see again all the content creators, kissing their whats and doing kissy faces to them. What do these insiders know that I don't know? Nothing. They don't know more than I know. I actually know more than them. I was thinking about this before I came on the live stream. I probably knew just as much about the Mets when I was 15, 16 years old than really any of the YouTubers now or any of the content creators or any of the podcasters or any of the insiders. Irresistible Chicken Sandwich says, "Well, Miss Howie Rose grew up listening to him, listened to a lot of him over the years. I'm going to miss Howie. I've met him a few times. I hope to meet him again this year, this season. Hopefully, I'll get to see him again because I want to thank him. That is my childhood right there. Listening to him uh, in the summer of '87, getting introduced to him, how much he loved the Mets and how much he loved the '69 Mets, and uh, he's going to be sorely missed. Not being around Mets baseball. Been around Mets baseball for 40 years. Between Mets Extra and Fox Sports and WFAN um, and of course on the radio now, he's gonna be sorely missed. Really gonna miss him. I don't get too and like I said, I don't get too worked up about too many things. You know, I don't get too upset about people leaving and stuff. Um, he's gonna be really missed. Can you behold says Howie, King of Mets Radio, the Hut, King of Mets YouTube. That's right, buddy. That's right, because I am. I'm the first Mets YouTuber, and I haven't changed who I am as a person. Again, like I said, I knew more at 15, 16 years old than any of these other people do. You know, when it comes to the history of the club, when it comes to telling you what I think about a player, I have no fear of telling you what I think about a player. A lot of times, these YouTubers, they don't want to say anything negative because they don't want to lose access. They're not sincere. They don't want to lose access to the teams. Um, and I'll tell you what I think. I've been watching baseball a long time. I spend a lot of time watching the games, and I know more than any of these insiders. These insiders, this is their job. Okay, this is my passion. This is my um, this is my thing. Is talking about my Mets team, and I give you my take, and it's that take. And sometimes it gets rough. I mean, this was a rough off season. Uh, this was a rough off season. It really was. And I was very hard on the team, on the players, because we have wasted a lot of years. 2025 was a wasted year for us. And I'm getting tired of wasting time here. Can you behold says the munchkin and the potato don't raid. Well, no, they don't. And neither does the Bugs Bunny guy. You can figure out who the Bugs Bunny guy is. God. The guy that when he does these videos, he does these shorts, all you see are his teeth. I mean, God, imagine Dr. Teeth from the Muppets. My goodness. Figure out who that is. Oh. I am not a fan of any of these YouTubers. Let me tell you something. None of them met YouTubers they're not friendly. They're not friendly. Nobody wants to hear that. Okay? None of them are friendly. None of them. None of them. And I basically treat them like strangers because that's what they are to me. Mets 973 says, what's wrong with Manaea in his arm? Hasn't thrown over 90, and he nor the team hasn't said anything about an injury or arm fatigue. Made the bone chips he didn't had. I don't know. I'm not worrying about him, to be honest with you. I wouldn't get too worked up about him. Basically because he over his career, he's had these issues. Over his career, the guy has been very ineffective. I mean, over the course of his career, he's got an ERA over 4. You know, um, the Mets have enough pitching depth with the starters. They could put Tobias Myers into the bullpen, into the rotation if they have to. They have Jonah Tong down in the minor leagues that has to get some experience. He has to work on his command. He has to work on his ability to throw strikes. He has to really get a hold of some of his secondary pitches. Once Tong is able to do those things, if he's able to do that in AAA, uh, he'll come back here. They'll put him in the back in the rotation, and this team could really take off. I did not mention Jonah early in the live stream. Because you brought him up. I bring him up now just thinking about it. But that's a big reason why I expect this team could really take off based off the development of Jonah Tong. I think that's very similar, like I've said in videos, very similar to um, Noah Syndergaard in 2015. His development put them in a situation where they put him in the rotation, and they had another guy in that rotation that made it difficult for teams, because then there was a third starter that was an ace. And Jonah has that ability to be a top-notch starter, but he has to get control. First of all, he has to grow up. He has to grow up. The one thing that I was I paid attention to was the fact that he looked like he needed to grow up a little bit, very childish. I know he was very wide-eyed, but I thought that he looked very childish at times in the dugout. He's a kid that doesn't have a lot of experience being in big crowds, coming from Canada and pitching, and being here. He was in Florida for a year or two before he got drafted, and obviously in the minor leagues, not playing the big crowds. So I think that in and of itself is a learning experience for him. He has to be able to get over that. He has to be able to, like I said, he has to learn how to command the game, manage the game, especially when things turn bad. He has to learn how to get command of that fastball, being able to throw his pitches for strikes, but be very efficient and throwing strikes, not throwing balls right down the middle that are going to get hit. So he has a lot of work ahead of him. But if he finds it, he could be back by May. He could be with this rotation by May. He could push somebody out who's not pitching well. So that's the one thing I could say about him. That I think that potential is so high for him. But like I said, he has to grow up. He has to get better command of his pitches. And if he's able to do that, the Mets will be in very good shape in the middle of the season. Mr. Chicken Sandwich says, I'm just so glad Frankie Meatball Montas is gone again. He was a guy the Mets never should have signed. He had not pitched well for many years. He was a terrible pitcher with the Yankees. He pitched poorly. He didn't pitch that great for the Reds. He didn't look great with the Brewers the year before. I was shocked that they signed him. I thought that was a terrible, terrible signing. And I thought that, and I was not confident that Jeremy Hefner, of all people, was going to bring him in here and turn him around. Well, bullshit, that wasn't going to happen. That was never going to happen. It was dumb. It was just dumb. It wasn't a smart move by Dave Stearns at all. It just wasn't a good move. It was just a terrible signing by the Mets. Hold on, I need drink. Look. Some things never change. Now, of course, please like this video and subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Like I said, this channel is very different than all the other channels you'll find. I don't have Yes, although I have an eye on bringing a player. I've not talked to him yet. I'd like to get him in here. A former player. I don't know if I can get him in here, but I'm gonna at some point ask him this week if I have time. He's a Met player, too, a good one. But we'll see. Couple of notes. As far as I know, they've not retired Tyrone number 15, which Tyrone Taylor wears. Obviously, that's Carlos Beltran's number. Let me double check. Because they were supposed to, and that the word was the Mets were going to retire number 15 with Beltran going in the Hall of Fame this summer of Major League Baseball. Let me double check the Mets website. We probably won't know about that until opening day. If they're going to retire Beltran's number. Let's see here. Like I said, please, of course, subscribe to the Baseball Hut and like this video. I said they've not retired number 15 yet. Tyrone Taylor still has the number. So they've not officially retired the number yet. So that's actually kind of interesting to me. And I've been sort of on this kick for many years talking about the numbers that need to be retired. The Mets have pretty much caught up with everybody but one player. You know, I mean they've gone out of their way to retire a lot of numbers really since 2019 when they announced that they were retiring Jerry Kuzma's number, and of course they retired Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, and of course David Wright. They've retired their numbers, which rightfully so, but they still have not retired Gary Carter's number, and I'm going to keep up on that. That is my goal this season for me. Okay, is to get that number retired. The former ownership of this team did not retire his number when Gary made the Hall of Fame. Gary did not get a chance to enjoy it while he was alive. I don't understand why they didn't do that when he made the Hall of Fame. I've been talking a lot about this over the last 2 weeks on X. That's been my best post about the number and Gary's number getting retired. People are confusing number retirement to Hall of Fame consideration. Those are two totally different objectives. When you retire a player's number, that is more of an emotional thing than it is anything else. It's honoring the person. It's not honoring the player. Gary was the only Hall of Fame player on a team that should have had 4 Hall of Famers on it. Okay. Gary was on a team that is probably one of the greatest teams of the last 50 years. He is the only Hall of Famer on a team that over the last 100 years, that's a great team. Okay. They had the most wins up until recently in the National League for like 25, 30 years. That 108 wins until the Dodgers won 111 a few years ago. And this is a Hall of Famer on that team. 4 of the 5 years that Gary was a Met, the Mets won. First of all, he was All-Star 4 those years, 5 to 88. Every year that he was an everyday catcher with the Mets won over 92 games. They won 98 and 85, 108 and 86, 92 on a team that had so many injuries to the pitching staff. They had the white Bob Gibson pitching for them. He was able to cobble that team to get 92 wins. I would say, that offense carried that team. You know, 88, they won 100 games. So 4 of those 5 years, the team won over 92 games every year with him as the primary catcher. And one of those years, they had massive injuries to the pitching staff. Every pitcher, every starter the Mets had got hurt. Roger McDowell got hurt. They didn't have Dwight Gooden for 2 months. Dwight Gooden won 15 games from June on. Then won 1 game in April and May. Could have won 20 games that year if he hadn't done all those drugs. But people tell me, he's only great 2 years. This is not about Hall of Fame credentials. Okay, he's in the Hall of Fame. Okay, because he was an Expo. Expos don't exist anymore. Gary did not want to go in the Hall of Fame as an Expo because he knew the Expos would leave him on trouble. He was told that by people in Major League Baseball. Okay, Cooperstown and the Hall of Fame put him in as an Expo, which is probably the right thing to do. But Gary didn't want that, and the family didn't want that. Okay, and Gary knew that there was a tug between both fan bases because Gary was very close to both the Montreal fans and to the Canadian fans and to the New York Mets fans. So there was no reason. There's been no reason whatsoever that this number has not been retired over the last 20 years. Nobody's going to wear that number again. Okay? Nobody has worn it since 2001. Okay? There's no reason that number should be retired now. They should have retired him. They should even retire him after he passed away. They had the number. They had the number, folks, on the outfield wall. Okay? They didn't do that with anybody that has passed away. Okay? So the Mets knew in 2012 how important that number was, how important he was to this franchise. And again, people are confusing Hall of Fame credentials to the number being retired. Okay? And then this is the most ridiculous thing as well. Well, if you're going to retire Gary's number, you got to retire Yogi too. Yogi had 9 at-bats with the Mets in 1965. Okay? He had 9 at-bats in 1965. And people saying, well, he was a great coach. He was a first base coach. I don't know of any first base coach that get in the hall that get their numbers retired. Okay? Well, he was a great manager. He managed 2 World Series. He lost both of them. And a lot of people blame Yogi for losing the World Series in Saturday by screwing up the pitching. Instead of pitching Seaver on full rest in Game 7, he pitched him in Game 6 on short rest. Seaver didn't have what he normally had, wasn't sharp. Instead of pitching George Stone, he was blamed for losing that World Series. Because the Mets got enough offense out of that lineup, believe it or not, to win that series. They were leading in that series. Yogi blew that series. And Yogi had a losing record as a manager. Well, he's an iconic player. Well, fine. But I'm not retiring it because of him. Sorry. I don't think that's... He was not as important as say, Willie Mays was. Willie played for the Mets, and his teammates said that he was very important to them down the stretch in 73. And he had a big hit in Game 2 of the World Series. I would also say this, and this is how much I know Mets history. Yogi never brought in Willie Mays to get another at bat because he did not start Willie in Game 7 against Oakland. Okay, he didn't even have him in there in the 9th inning. I think Wayne Garrett made the last. I don't even know because I don't even think I wasn't even born yet. So the idea that you're not going to have Willie Mays get one more shot at it. I would have taken him a shot with old Willie Mays over that lineup any day of any day. Now let me get to the chat. An irresistible chicken sandwich says David Wright, the true Captain America, Team USA Blue with horse face. I mean Aaron Judge. He just never shows. Oh, he doesn't. He's terrible. He's terrible in these big games. You notice, Harper had a big hit in that game. But Horseface did. So, I've been posting, like I said, a lot of stuff on. So I'm very passionate about Gary Carter because he was my favorite player growing up. He was my hero growing up. So I'm very passionate about it. And I'm going to keep on this and on this and on this now till we get his number retired. I would hope that the Mets will do something smart and that when they honor the 86 team during the season, they're going to do that. The first bobblehead is Gary Carter, by the way, which will be on April 9th against the Diamondbacks. I would hope that when they honor the club, the 86 team, that they'll announce at that game like they did 4 years ago that they were going to retire Willie Mays' number. They were going to retire Gary's number that day too. And they'll have the big sign out on the field and they'll say, we're going to retire the kid's number. But I've been posting a lot of stuff on, just posting different players. And one of the players I said, and I think I said in a video talking about Beltran, that he wore the number the longest. Some guy flipped out on Facebook, not Facebook, on YouTube saying, not a Met fan. You should know that Jerry Grote wore number 15 longer. Okay, excuse me. And then you should be posting that they should retire 15 for Jerry Grote. I went through the numbers for Jerry Grote. I know that Seaver swore up and down about him as a guy that called games, as a guy that threw runners out. But you go through those offensive numbers for Jerry Grote. God rest his soul. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He couldn't hit water if he landed in it. He fell in a tub. He could not hit at all. Okay. I think his OPS plus for his career was 86. So he was 14% worse than the average major leaguer. This is a guy, even though his numbers career-wise accumulated, he did not have 20 doubles in a season. Okay? This is when catchers play a lot. He did not play every day. Okay? The lack of not only just home run power, but the lack of slugging percentage. Like you're talking in the 300, I think he was like a 386 slugging percentage. You know how bad you have to be for that kind of percentage? That means you're not getting any doubles. If he was getting like 25, 30 doubles a year, they would have been a better offensive club those years. John Stearns was a better offensive player than he was for his short career. But the numbers for Jerry Grote was so horrific. Then I started digging in further. And this is sacrilege to say this. Buddy Harrelson would not be playing every day or be in the major leagues based on his offensive numbers. His offensive numbers were so bad. The only reason his WAR was so high was because of his defense was so good. His offense was terrible. His offense was terrible in the 70s. I mean, he was one of the worst offensive players in the game. I mean, he really was. Again, even 25, 30 years ago, Buddy would not be playing. He would not be in the major leagues. He certainly wouldn't be in the major leagues now. If anything, he would be a backup. He would be a career minor leaguer. He'd be a guy to be bouncing up and down, bouncing around from team to team. Because his defense was very good, but the offense is nothing there. Nothing. He had less offensive pop, less offensive ability that Jerry Grody had. So, so when you hear things like, say, Pete Rose, because if you watch that documentary on Pete Rose a few years ago before he passed away, he complained in the video. I mean, not in the video, in the documentary, how bad the Mets teams were in the '70s. How they had Seaver and nobody else on that team, and how angry that '73 team, in particular, Pete was that they lost that series against the Mets because of the fact that that team was terrible offensively, but they had Seaver. And they had some good pitching behind him. And they had no offense. They had nothing. Funny thing about the Mets of those playoff teams, they hit. It's the craziest thing. In '69, they destroyed the Braves. In '73, they held their own against above really great teams offensively. I mean, they held their own against those. They beat the Reds fair and square in 5 games. They took the A's on the second year of their dynasty to a Game 7. I don't think the Reds did that the year before. And I don't think the Dodgers did that the year after that. So these bad teams, they were able to do that. But their offense was, and everyone knew that I was going through these numbers. This is how crazy I am. Oh, this is over the last 2 weeks. Going over the numbers of these Mets teams. I mean, 71, they won 83 games. 72, they won 83 games. 73, and that's with Rusty Staub missing like half the season. 73, they win 82 games. They win the division because the entire division basically collapsed that season. And then 74, it's funny, 74 was the one year that they were really bad during those years with Seaver. From 69 to 76, bad year. But they lost like 80-something games or whatever it was. Or 86 games. But you see a little offense that they started to build. They were starting to build an offensive team in '76 to where they brought in Dave Kingman. He had a good year. John Milner, who was playing left field at the time, he had a good year. And who was the third guy in that team? Oh, Eddie Kranepool had a good year. And they won 86 games that year. That was the second best record they ever had. And that was in '76. So I looked further into this team. It's crazy. It's how crazy I am. Seaver won 14 games. He won 14-11 with an ERA at 2.59. And then you had Jerry Koosman, who won 20 games. Should have won the Cy Young that year. Based off of today's standard, he would have won it because his wins above replacement was better. He had just a better year over Randy Jones. And then John Matlack, who's the number 3 star on those teams, won 17 games. He won 17-9. They won 86 games. They finished in third place. The Phillies, I guess they won 102 games, 103 games, and the Cubs they had 89 wins. And I looked at Seaver's numbers at 14-11. He had 35 starts that year, and I said to myself, "It's like I'm not really following the games. I didn't go through the games and stuff on Baseball Reference, but that's sort of indication that he probably had a lot of games where the Mets lost maybe 2-1, 3-2, 3-1." Or they were winning late in the game and the bullpen blew a game. He got a no decision. Or they weren't scoring runs for him. He was like he's the guy that year. The team didn't score runs for him when he pitched. And that kind of told me. So, but anyway, so as I was going through these offensive statistics for these everyday players, why would I want to highlight Jerry Grody as 15 days from opening day over Carlos Beltran, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, and a Hall of Famer as a New York Met, and a guy that's in the organization and who's, as opposed to Jerry Grody, who nobody saw, and his offensive capability was terrible. So that's kind of sort of the debate that we've been going through on X in particular. And I've been posting a lot of stuff on X. Tomorrow, just give you a preview for tomorrow on X. and I've been previewing a lot of 86 Met cards because obviously it's the 40th anniversary. If you don't follow me on X, I post 86 cards like crazy. I'm starting to run out of cards. I had to go do my box to find some cards I didn't, and I have my cards like separated. They're not on the same box. But anyway, so I'll give you a preview. We're gonna have Randy Neiman, of all people, be the highlighted card for tomorrow morning. And then because we're 3 days away from opening day, I'm gonna have Curtis Granderson, who's one of my favorite all-time Mets and one of my all-time favorite players. I just love the guy. I thought he was just awesome when he played for the Mets. I signed him, so he'll be the number 3. I know people are gonna get mad. Why don't you put Buddy? I know, and I don't want to be mean like I am here, saying that Buddy couldn't hit. You know, I'll tell you something strange. I went to a Ducks game last year, and they were giving out cards because it was the 25th anniversary of the Ducks, because the Ducks have been out here since 2000. And Buddy was the founder of that team, and he was the first manager. Other than a couple like jerseys and pictures of him, there's very little mention of Buddy. But the weird baseball cards, and Buddy wasn't in the pack. I was shocked. Not even his owner. He wasn't in the pack. It's like, how could you not have Buddy? You're trying to sell his uniform number. You have all this stuff that's related to Buddy, and he's not anywhere there. So Buddy will not be mentioned tomorrow. And then number 2, which will be Tuesday, there isn't really any player. So if I don't think there's a player that I thought was interesting, I won't post anything. But tomorrow, for Tuesday, I will post Bobby Valentine, because he's probably the most memorable number 2 in Mets history. And obviously, number 1 is Mookie. So if you're not on X, you'll get a preview of that. And if you're not on Facebook, you'll get that too. But just to give you an idea of who's who and where's and what's what, that's some of the stuff that I'll have on X the next few days. And then on Wednesday, we'll have baseball. Wednesday, we'll be back covering the Mets every day, as much as I can, and everything else I do on YouTube. Try and expand a little bit. That's why I posted a picture of Willie Mays on Friday, asking the people on there, was Willie Mays the greatest player of all time? Tonight, I posted a picture of Shohei Ohtani. I think tomorrow, because I wrote it all, I have all the stuff mapped out, because there's so many players, you got to map it out. I think tomorrow I'll probably ask Henry Aaron. I think tomorrow that I'll post, and that'll be the next player that I'll highlight tomorrow night. Was he the greatest home run hitter or something like that, or the greatest player of all time? Henry Aaron. The first book I ever read on sports or baseball was I guess a biography on Henry Aaron. So I've always been I found it in school when I was a kid. I read it. I took it home. I read it, and I was just sort of fascinated with him. Even though he was a scum-sucking Brave, it's always fascinated with him. So he's always been a player I've always admired, and said that the way he passed away, he got basically, vaxxed out. Guy got the vaccine, a month later he was dead. You can't, can't say there wasn't a connection. But I know he was up there in age, but for him to go out like that was terrible. But anyway, one of my favorite all-time players that wasn't a Met, Henry Aaron. A real love for him and affinity for him. He went through a lot. Went through a lot of bad stuff in his career. But we'll have a lot of stuff on X and a lot of stuff on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook at Baseball Hut. This is not the old account. The old account got hacked, and I've been trying to rebuild it. I'm in no rush for that, but I am in a rush to get the Baseball Hut on X monetized. So if you want to follow me at the Baseball Hut on X, just Just go at the baseball hut. Believe it or not, there's an actual baseball hut at baseball hut on there. That isn't me. I don't know how that got on there from years ago, but I can't use can't use that name. I don't know why. But I'll have plenty of stuff on there. So hopefully you follow me on there over the next forever. you know. Um, but that's pretty much it. What the hell time is it? Holy crap! I'm on here for 2 hours. Wow, had a lot to say tonight. Because I've been thinking about a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to do it in a free and easy live stream. And it's quiet here tonight. There's no like craziness going on here. Not that there ever is in this place. This is a very nice. Got a very nice neighborhood. But again, just to sort of give you an idea of what you look forward to, I'll be doing more videos outside. Hopefully this summer. I have some, yard work that needs to get done. And I'm gonna do stuff outside. I want to do videos outside because I think that would be really great for you, and it'd be fun for me to do it and not have to be sort of locked inside the house, Um, and to be able to do it would be fun to do for you too. So be something a little bit different. There's only so much I can do indoors. It gets kind of boring, you know. And do the live stream is fun. I mean, we did a live stream last year. Really, what was last year? Was 2 years ago. I couldn't do the live stream last year for the trade deadline because it was raining. We didn't have good weather. But the year before in 2024, I did a live stream inside, and then it went outside. It was great. It looked great. It sounded great, and hopefully we can do that again this year. So that's going to be a lot of fun to look. That'll be fun to do. And like I said, I'll have more videos to do outside too. I want to be able to have a nice table outside. I'm going to do a whole thing with the yard because we have a yard here, but I don't really care for it. I think it's ugly. It's just dirt and these old like annuals, all these annuals that come up on the ground from out of the ground. So I'm gonna put some pavers down, put some mulch down because I have a major chipmunk problem. Believe it or not, I have a major chipmunk problem, and that's got to get fixed. The only way I can do that is basically make it impossible for them to dig up anything. Got to put mulch down. Gonna put like some little rocks down. I gotta design it. You know, I'm an artist, so I was an artist. I want to design something really nice before I do it, and that's gonna be a lot of fun to do it. I gotta pull some plants up. I gotta get like one of these backhoes, one of these handle backhoes that are like long sticks that I could dig up some of the plants and some of the branches I have, some of the roots I have, because I had a tree in front of the house that we had taken down. The neighbor and I had it taken down, so because that covered like both our properties, and we didn't really like it. It was putting berries all in the yard, and then you come in through the yard, you bring it into the house. It's disgusting. We got rid of that. The biggest thing that I deal with out here is I have like a bug problem out here. So many crickets out here. But we're going to take care of that this summer. But those are some of the things to look forward to here. Again, I'm going to be very active on X this season. Been very active on X the last 2 months, really, since my Facebook account got skadooshed. So that'll be monetized, I would hope, very soon. But over the next couple of months, we'll go through the season. Like I said, I've not gotten to the schedule like I normally do. But I know the beginning of the schedule, they must play the Pirates this weekend coming up. And then next week, they play the Cardinals on the road. That's going to be very cold in March and April. And then they'll play the Giants next weekend. That'll be interesting, to say the least. And then we'll have Easter that Sunday. I'll try to do as many live streams as I can, very much specifically this week. So like I said, I'm on vacation this week, so I'm gonna be very busy here at the house for you, and of course all the channels I have. So um, my sense of sort of urgency is not nearly as great as it used to be because of the fact that I want to get better content rather than fast content if I can do it, especially the last couple of days. There really isn't a lot going on other than the NCAA. I don't care. I really don't care about St. John's. I know when my family members went there, I don't care. I don't think they care either. To be honest with you, they don't really like basketball. But I couldn't care less. I mean, I could have probably done a video, a short on there, the baseball head too. But why even bother? Um, and we're all about baseball here, aren't we? All about the Mets. We're all about baseball, and I'll continue to do that. And again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm always going to cover the Mets. I think I said this. I plan on doing this for a very long time. I expect to be doing this for another 25 years. I don't expect to be going anywhere. You know, nobody's pushing me out. I don't care about my numbers. I've established myself enough that I don't really care. To be honest with you. The only thing I need to do more is get out more. you know, get to the ballpark more. But it's difficult when I live so far away now. This isn't like when I lived like in Queens. So it's a little bit more difficult to do that. But I'm not going anywhere. So if you think that you'll see videos up by me, sometimes if I don't do videos on any of the channels, it means I'm just taking a day off or a couple of days off. Or there's nothing I feel is interesting to talk about. you know, but I'll be active on X, active on Facebook. That stuff I don't have to do. Videos don't mount me find a picture that I like or post something. Either a short or a short video or whatever on there, just so you have an idea of what I'm planning. So, but I don't have a sense of urgency because I feel very comfortable in what I talk about here, and you know, and as you can see, I'm just sitting in my rocking chair, you know, just talking about the Mets, and there's no tension here. I like I said, would like to get some guests in here, but if I don't, I don't. You know, I do have my eye out for a player I want to get in here, but I don't know. I have not talked to him or introduced myself to him, but we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully that'll lead to other players. But that's a long ways off. Um, and I've always talked about bringing in guests. I haven't had a guest on this channel like 5 years. I haven't had a guest in here since Pete McCarthy. That's a long time. That's a long time. Well, I'm going to end the live stream here. I thank everybody that's stuck through this rather long stream. I don't do streams like I normally have in the past. I did a live stream last week on my phone. I had all these, and because I was doing with the phone, all these goofballs, and I think a lot of children were coming in and just saying crazy stuff. Because they were just coming up on the shorts feed, and a lot of them were just completely just off the wall, crazy. And I think that some of them, need to grow up. But other than this guy asked me about my wife, that's weird. Oh, does your wife follow you on your accounts? Oh, and I love the show. Oh, okay. I love your videos. Uh-huh. You know, I may be losing my mind at times, but I haven't lost my mind totally yet. But I want to thank you all for coming by, all the great people coming in here, all my regulars are coming in here. Hopefully we'll do some more streams. We'll see how things go tomorrow. Maybe I'll do one. I will see. I'm not going to promise anything. But we'll be pretty active here this week, and plenty of shorts coming up. I don't have to get up early tomorrow, so I'll just sort of sleep in probably tomorrow. But thank you for watching. I appreciate your support over the years, and we get started on Thursday, and that's it. And and again, just to sort of mention again, I don't make predictions. I got burned 3 years ago with the Mets, and because the Mets are so unpredictable about a lot of stuff, I'm finding it very difficult to predict where they're going to go. Um, and plus, because I didn't make a prediction 24, I think that's a good way to kind of continue on. And last year, I thought they would be better than they were, and they weren't. So I'm not in the prediction business, but I will say the Pirates are going to be a factor this year, and I don't think this will be the last time the Mets will see the Pirates at Citi Field. I could see them having a wild card series at Citi Field at the end of the year. I don't expect the Mets to win the division. I'd be surprised if they did. But thank you all for coming by. Please, of course, subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good night's sleep. If you're going out tomorrow working, get around safely. And thanks for watching. Have a good night. Let's go, Mets, and I'll see you later.